I'm a Sony shooter at heart, but something about Fuji cameras just keeps drawing me into them. I've tried the XE2 before, the X-T3 more recently, but I ended up selling them and I just kept comparing them to my Sony cameras and I didn't love them. But I've now found this Fuji camera that I think I actually quite like, and it's this guy, the X100V. And it's because it's so different to my Sony cameras, you just can't compare them. And this is actually a lot of fun to shoot with. Let's talk about why I like it. For a while now, I've had this idea that I want to start taking more and more photos. Things of the kids as they're growing up, family shots, out and about, that kind of thing. All the crap that you'd typically take with your phone. But I want to take that with an actual camera and enjoy the process of doing so. I find with my Sony cameras that when I pick them up, I'm in the mindset of working, and I tend to not enjoy the process of shooting for myself with them. Especially when it comes to the edit process, I don't enjoy shooting for myself. I don't know why that is. And then in my head, something somewhere decided that this would be a good camera to fill that void. And it kind of has been. Now, I'm not going to claim to be an expert on this camera, nor am I constituting this as a review. This is a Sony shooter using this camera for fun. So play nice, Fuji community that's going to very likely attack the comment section down below. So here's why I find this works for me and why I enjoy using this versus my Sony cameras. This is a tiny little camera. Here's the 55 Zeiss f1.8 next to it for comparison there. It's got the lens hood attached, but so you can see. Here's a 12 Pro Max next to it. It's a small camera and it fits in a jacket pocket, a hoodie pouch, wherever you want to put it, easily. I don't have to bring a bag with me. I don't even have to attach a strap. In actual fact, I like it without a strap attached. So the fact that I don't really have to think about this when it comes out with me is a big deal. It can go with me wherever I want it to go. So this is an APS-C camera with a 23mm f2 lens. Now that equates to 35mm, which I find for what I'm taking photos of is pretty good in terms of framing most things. Now, the best bit is that the lens is fixed. It doesn't detach from here, so I can't put another lens on, which means gear acquisition syndrome doesn't start to creep in. I'm not browsing B&H, searching for the next fix. I can't look for other lenses because it's not possible. Aside from buying a couple of accessories, I've got a level on the hot shoe there, a screen protector. You can buy different shutter buttons to go on the top there. I've tried with and I kind of like it without. And also a adapter that goes on the front here, which essentially allows you to screw things onto the filter thread. It is reverse threaded, meaning filters, lens hoods, they won't just screw on. You have to buy an adapter first and then you can screw things on. So aside from that, there really isn't anything else you can buy for this. So not having gas is kind of a good thing. Fuji is known for its film simulations, which are essentially a bunch of settings that the camera uses to create looks, create styles, emulate old film stocks. Now there are ones that you can kind of put in yourself, which are called like recipes. They're versions of existing emulations that people change a little bit. And I've ended up finding one that I really enjoy using for pretty much all situations. If I can find the name of it, it was a while back now, I'll put it on the screen here. Essentially it adds a bunch of grain. The colors are very, very muted. And it just has a real old look to it that I just like, straight out the camera for pretty much everything. And that look does remind me of film. Now I don't say that because I shoot on film now, I say that because I learned to shoot photos on film with an SLR camera, with an actual mirror in it. Digital SLRs weren't a thing. Literally learned how to shoot with an SLR camera, proper film. You expose it in a bag, in a classroom. This is when I was in college, I would have been 17 in England. Then you go in the darkroom and you use all the chemicals to develop it. That's how I learned how to shoot photos. And the look that I use, it reminds me very much of that. I actually treat this like a point and shoot, and I know there is a bunch of people out there that do the same with this camera. I have the shutter speed and the ISO set to automatic, so I can control all this if I want to. You lift this up and you can change it around. I don't, I have it set to automatic. All I control is my aperture, which you do directly on the lens here, by turning this little ring. Now, because they're automatic, it does mean that there's going to be grain in there sometimes, but the simulation I'm using already adds a bunch of grain anyway, so I really don't care. These are images for myself. I just want them to look how they look, straight out of the camera, and that's exactly what I get. So you can actually leave the power on this all the time and just have auto power off set to 15 seconds. So then I just tap the shutter and it's ready to shoot and I get my image. I focus on the subject in front of me, the composition, if the lighting's right. If it's not, I just use the exposure compensation here to either darken it or brighten it. And that's it. I take the photo, and you might not like the photos that have been coming over the top throughout this video, but for me, I just love how they look. Now, another reason I quite like it is because it's such a different breed of camera. I really can't compare it to my Sony cameras. There's no lenses to change around. The grip is tiny, so you hold it completely different. It's actually really not that ergonomically friendly to hold. So you tend to hold it very differently when you're capturing photos. Shooting with the OVF, the EVF, you tend to hold it very odd. I also like shooting at the hip like this with the screen at a 90-degree angle there. They're all really enjoyable to use because they're so different to what I typically use with my big cameras. It has an OVF, so an optical viewfinder, and an EVF, which you can switch between by just pulling the lever here. I'll try and show you on the screen how that looks. But an OVF is just very reminiscent of shooting with an SLR camera, a digital SLR camera. So it literally allows you to be kind of in the moment. You're seeing everything live, not through a screen. So that's a nice thing as well. Nice little thing about the OVF as well, if you are using the optical viewfinder, but you're not entirely sure if something is in focus, you can just push the lever here to the left, or push it opposed to pulling it, and it gives you a little tiny box in the corner of the OVF, which is now a digital EVF inside of the OVF, and it allows you to see what's actually in focus. I'll try and put that over the top so you can see. And maybe I'm just in the honeymoon phase of this still. I mean, I've had it nearly 2 months, but in general, it's just fun to use. I guess a real easy way to explain it is that I see this as a tool and this as a hobby. A couple of other things I like about this, if you're thinking about picking one up, other things you might like to know. If you are shooting in automatic, so when you hold the shutter button there, it focuses, you can actually click and hold the shutter and then turn the focus on the front here, and it'll give you access to manual focus as well. If you want to use this for video as well, it's actually a pretty capable camera. You get 4K up to 30 frames a second. You get all of Fuji's film simulations. You can use F-Log, and it has a built-in 4-stop ND. Something I don't like is Fuji menus, and one big hate I have with the Fuji menus, especially when you first get this camera, if you're trying around different settings, playing about with different things, if you go into one menu, change something, and then you want to go back and see how that now affects the camera, and you don't like it, and you want to go back and change it, when you go back into the menus, it doesn't take you to the same place. You have to go back through all the menus to get to where you just were. So that's something I really don't like about Fuji menus. This is the only camera I have that I actually use a lens cap with, and it's probably because it's so small, but it's also because it just looks really nice on the camera when you're not using it. Like, that is a good look in itself. It does come in black as well, like fully black. I do sometimes think I should have got the black instead, but there's a lot of debate that says Fuji cameras that have an OVF in there typically look better in the silver and black variant. And it does look good. The silver is actually a very, like, it's not shiny at all. It's brushed. It's almost like a matte silver. It's really hard to explain until you feel and see this in your hand. So this is the Fuji X100V. Will the novelty wear off? I don't know. This is the longest I've had a Fuji camera where I haven't thought about selling it. So we'll see. That's it really. All right, I appreciate you watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.